Abusive relationships are quite a difficult thing for people to really understand and grasp. A lot of people go through them every single day, whether it be the male or the female. It doesn't end up well either way. Abusive relationships aren't quite exactly the thing that you want to go through, and it doesn't necessarily have to be boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. It can also exist in the workplace. For example, your own boss, maybe you even your own coworker. But there are some differences in how we view them. Some people can view them as the nicest people in the world. Other people can view them as assholes or bastards, or just downright fucking narcissists. Here's a tale of an example of how me and my boss just do not see eye to eye. Except there's a bigger problem than everybody might assume. Because my boss just so happens to be the Lord of Death himself, Count Motherfucking Dracula. And it does not get easy trying to take care of the Lord of Darkness. Oh no, it does not. Greetings, kids and nerds, and ladies universe, and I'm White Nerdy. And yeah, I've officially have seen the film known as Renfield. And this is a superb horror story, although, for the record, in case you're wondering that this is like a full-blown, like, scary, blah, Nicolas Cage or Dracula, it's not. It's a lot more than that. In fact, this movie was written by Robert Kirkman, the same writer behind Invincible, and also, yes, The Walking Dead. Kirkman handled this very well, adding his own flavor to the tale while making some remarkable and also relatable characters. Renfield does feel like a great movie, and in fact, Nicolas Cage has always wanted to play an on screen horror monster. He almost had the success with Superman, but he really wanted to play a horror monster. And while he couldn't tackle any one of these guys, he can, however, accomplish the great role of Dracula. So, does Dracula officially rise to the occasion in this movie, or did Dracula just make out like some of the other vampires and end up sucking? Well, let's find out as I give you my review of the one and only Renfield. Robert Montague Renfield first met Dracula back during the 1800s, with Dracula offering him a job to work at his enchanted castle. Renfield accepted the job not knowing what was going to happen to him. The fact that he would end up becoming one of Dracula's familiars and would get superpowers from insects. Robert is in quite a predicament taking care of the Lord of Darkness, and it is a very abusive relationship that he goes through with Dracula himself. Can Robert officially find his way out of this abusive relationship, or will he succumb to the mighty Lord of Darkness himself and serve Dracula forever? Now, I already know what most of you are thinking. This sounds like a really dumb idea. And you know what? At first, it did sound like a dumb idea. But then when you start to just accept the fact that it's a goofy horror movie that had Nicolas Cage as fucking Dracula, it starts to begin to work. Nicholas Hammond is a great actor, and in fact, he has proved this in a movie that I talked about and might review this coming October, Warm Bodies. Nicholas Hammond does prove Nicholas Hammond does prove that he can show off a different persona of himself, and especially in Warm Bodies, he was both likable and funny. The same comes here. Hammond pulled off Robert Montague Renfield in a charming way that nobody else can match him for, and especially with him and Nicolas Cage that had previously worked on. There it is. Believe it or not, The Family Man, which I have already discussed quite a time ago. They both have such a flavor to the on-screen persona, and especially both of them, in a great way, show off just how atrocious that sometimes going through an abusive relationship, even a working relationship, can really have its effect and toll on people. And I gotta say that both the relationship between Nicholas Hammond and also the Cage Man himself was really damn decent. and I really did feel for Renfield, in fact. And in fact, Renfield becomes a very likable character for me because, well, not to get into too much detail, I have been in a few abusive relationships myself, so I actually can feel what Renfield is feeling. And that's what's so great about the writer behind this, Robert Kirkman. He gives you a character that you can really feel for and also appreciate because Renfield is just damn likable, and also he's just damn relatable. And in fact, later on in the movie, he becomes the driving force behind everything. Renfield wants to get away from his abusive relationship, and you really do feel that, especially when Robert later on tells off the Prince of Darkness himself. Dracula and Robert just have this really amazing relationship that goes over the both of them. It really plays off of how much an abusive relationship can have its toll. Even so much so that later on, when Renfield ends up meeting Rebecca Quinn, played by Aquafina, yeah, you actually do get the feeling that he finally met someone. Renfield was finally happy that he could meet the woman of his dreams. It would happen to be a famous and also funny Chinese comedian. Who'd have thunk? But yeah, I really do like Rebecca Quinn in this movie, played by Aquafina. She also was a relatable character, but in fact, she had too much of a character that comes out here. Um, she does have a sister, and she had a father that was on the police force, and had Judith But in basically like RoboCop ish fashion. Her father ends up dying on the force. She ends up taking over his place. And had Judith Bet because she's a woman on the police force. Nothing against women on the police force or anything, but this movie kind of plays off the kind of idea like she's a woman on the police force, but unfortunately, just because she's a woman on the police force, she kind of undermined and underhanded. No one takes her seriously, and that begins to have its toll taken upon her. You do get that feeling or sensation that she's trying to take down the whole criminal organization herself. That because, in a sense, she kind of is trying to take down this guy, big villain in the movie, Lobo. She often at times feels like that she doesn't belong in the police academy or the police organization, but she does because she played a bigger role than she anticipated and a role that she forever will be renowned for. And it's even better that she accepts the story that Renfield ends up telling her much later on that he actually worked for Dracula, and she just decides, fuck it, I'm going with it. But what is a monster movie without its title monster? I mean, you have some pretty great acting and superb characters with Nicholas Hammond as Robert Montague Renfield, and also Aquafina as the amazing Rebecca Quinn, and also pretty badass woman. Some of the fight scenes that she was involved in here. I haven't seen no much badass fight scene since I watched Shang-Chi that she was in. So, trust me. And I know some people are going to correct me and say it's pronounced Shang-Chi. I always have said it Shang-Chi. Don't expect me to change my alliteration anytime soon. But the title monster of the movie is Nicolas Cage as the Lord Dracula himself. And Nicolas Cage had played a monster before. Technically. We have to remember, he was Ghostwriter. So technically he had played a monster before, but he'd always wanted to play like an old school monster like Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, etc., and the list goes on. So, does Dracula in this movie rise up to the Hall of Fame? Yeah, there's only one smidgen of a problem that I have, and it's that Dracula isn't much in this film. In fact, in the beginning of the film, he ends up becoming injured due to a priest. We'll talk more about that because it's a funny joke that I can make with that. If you have seen the maniacal cinephile or Stitch Together Pictures Andy, you know the joke I'm talking about, and yes, I'm going to make a very similar joke here. But he actually ends up becoming more of like a caretaker for Dracula. It's not really a worker relationship until later on. But Dracula in the movie was very, very missing in this movie. It kind of feels like, they want you to focus on Robert Renfield, who is in fact the main character. But I think that if they have tweaked in Nicolas Cage just a little bit more, this movie would have been a little bit more badass. But trust me, this movie is freaking amazing. Just a little bit of tweak with the Cage Man was all I'm asking because Nicolas Cage as Dracula really is awesome. Nicolas Cage as Dracula was something I never knew I wanted, but something that I don't want to ever be without, because Cage was an amazing Dracula. He shows off just how much of a monster that he is, especially just to Renfield himself, and especially he just goes to his meeting to kill everybody. It becomes worse later on when Dracula ends up working for the big villain of the movie, and he ends up making more than just one familiar that Renfield has to deal with. But yes, Dracula is a force to be reckoned with in this movie. Guaranteed fat, but I really do love the way that Cage really handled the character of Dracula. I don't think that this is important for me to get into, but I think it's very much needed to be said. This movie is very bloody and gory. I mean, a lot of the fight scenes in here just have bloods and guts just spilling out of everybody. So if you're thinking like, like the Amazon Tick series, like, oh, this is gonna be child friendly. No, no, it is not. It got that hard R rating, and for good reason. There was a lot of blood, guts, and gore in this, but you know what? As somebody that can just watch the Punisher film while eating and going, this is great, guy gets a shotgun blast to the face, his whole head explodes. Amazing. Like, there's only so many things that you can do that would really catch me off guard, and Renfield does not catch me off guard in a gore department. And in fact, a lot of the fight scenes plus the gore really do go hand in hand with each other because the fight scene and the choreography that really goes feels a lot like Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. They do feel like that damn awesome. Also, if Shang-Chi had blood, guts, and gore going for it, which I don't think either Marvel or Disney would really feel would be appreciated at all things in seriousness. But Renfield does get its job very well done, especially in the blood and gore department, because if you remember, this is a horror movie. So while it might not look like it on the outside, Renfield is exactly the blood, guts, and gore type of movie that you can only expect from R-rated movies like these. But it does deliver for Gorehound, so everybody can really get a taste of it. But yeah, I can admit you don't want your children to accidentally watch it because it is bloody and gory as hell. If you want to be in for a bloody good time, this is definitely the one for you. Very similar to Ash vs. the Evil Dead, this series is unapologetically bloody and gory, so you've been warned. But I'll tell you this, Renfield is still worth watching, even if you're not into the gore territory, because goddamn the fight scenes were pretty awesome.
Drop of blood Dracula spills will be on your hands.
Oh man, you're so cool, Brewster! So, does Renfield really held up to the category of being a decent horror film? Yeah, the story is amazing. The cast and characters are great and likable and also relatable. And Nicolas Cage as the Lord of Darkness himself really did make this movie even shine more. Despite my little criticisms that I wish that Nicolas Cage was in the movie a lot more, and also I wish that we could have gotten a more explanation on Renfield's family that he said that he had, it would have made for a lot more relatable character. Plus, also, it would have made a lot more, and which I know that she technically goes through it, but if we gave Rebecca Quinn just a tad bit of maybe an abusive relationship herself, aside from in the workforce, maybe give her like an abusive boyfriend or whatever. But with all things considered and standing, this movie is still really badass and awesome. Renfield was a surprise for me for being a decent horror film, and especially a really great horror comedy. It really stands up there as probably one of my favorite horror films of this year. And yes, in case you're wondering, I have seen the original Fright Night. I will be reviewing the original Fright Night in October. Fright Night in October. Thank you, Lisp and Speech Impediment. Thank you so much for helping me. But yeah, they'll be reviewed in October. But as far as Renfield goes, how do I feel on the movie? I think that the movie is great, superb, and despite my criticism, still really damn bloody awesome. And that is why the bloodsucker himself of Dracula or Renfield gets my highest gross rating of a Supreme Strange because of how damn awesome it is. In the meantime, I've been Lazy Universe, I've been White and Nerdy. Thank you so much for watching this review. Check out the movie of Renfield. It is definitely worth your time and worth probably every penny that you own. The version I have here is the Dracula Sucks Edition, which has a bunch of bonus features on it that you can see, such as deleted scenes, Nicolas Cage becoming Dracula, and so much more. So thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, if you want me to come to you and to lead you in the ways of the Lord of Darkness, aka myself, you can be sure to follow me with Twitter in the link in the description down below. Subscribe if you want my eternal darkness to spread like plagues across the land. And also, just be sure to be here every time I make an upload so you can enjoy. So thank you guys so much for watching. I've been Lazy Universe, I've been White Nerdy. Keep geeking on, and I'll see you guys next time. So check out Renfield, and I'll see you later. Take care.